Okay, it's June 17th. This is the first day of the third week of my summer writing vlog. Today was a tough day of writing, but a good day. In terms of words, not a lot of words. I was really having to do a lot of research and thinking to get the events leading up to the things I actually want to talk about historically in my military history, to get those in order in my mind so I could create an effective and efficient summary of all those events, because I'm not writing a whole history of the war in the Pacific, and at some point I have to do a tremendous amount of condensing of information from general sources about World War II in the Pacific. Right now I'm only relying on one, but as I get close to the finishing stages I will find other histories of the Pacific which I can use to corroborate and maybe add a little bit different perspective on some of those events. But I got down to the point where I'm talking about the military unit that I'm actually trying to write this book about, and their first real combat experience. And this is an incredibly complicated thing, or at least it is for me to try to describe. So I actually spent a lot of time just holding the pen and staring out the window, trying to think about what to do or what to write or what order to put it in. One of the things that's a challenge is that, as I've described, I'm going from like the big unit down to an individual, and I have to always be thinking which details about the events, about the combat events, so I want to put at each level. Which details do I want to have at the regimental level, the battalion level, the company level, and the individual level. So that and my dogs, which I may or may not put in the video, slowed me down a bit today, but I'm happy with the progress I made and the work I did. What, baby? Do you want to go out? Very good writing day today. I was able to sit down a little bit later. I'm having a hard time scheduling exactly when I'm going to do my writing, but I eventually sat down and I wrote solid for about an hour and 10 minutes without even looking up at the clock, and made some really good progress. Struggled a little after that, still constantly having to make decisions about which information to put in which section. So I came to the end of the section that covers the military action at the regimental level. I still have to do the company and the individual level, but I get to start that tomorrow because I finished the information about the regimental actions today. So I spent the last 30 minutes today reading over the material that will go in the section at the company level. But again, it was a good and productive day. Okay, it's June the 19th, third straight day of writing. I made pretty good progress, though not as much as I would have liked. I'm still not through the company section of the first kind of combat discussion of the 41st Infantry. I wasn't able to get to work till after lunch, afternoon today, and this brought up a question I had for anybody on who's watching this still and who writes. Is there a time of day during which you think, or you prefer to write, or during which you think you're more productive? Now, I would have said, and I still believe, that I'm at my most, I'm going to use the word intellectually, I'm at my most intellectually productive between about 9 o'clock and 11 or 12. And that's either 9 o'clock in the morning to around noon. I'm at my best, I think, peak mental performance, and the same thing is true at night. And it doesn't have to be writing. This is when I get my most reading done. Since I'm a teacher, this is when I'm most efficient in terms of grading papers. This just seems to be when I'm at my sharpest. But the last, several times during this writing vlog, I've had to interrupt that and change the times, and I don't think it's affected my productivity yet, so maybe I'm just clinging on to that old idea. Anyway, let me know what you think about whether or not you have a definitive time in which you like to write. It also occurred to me that a lot of what I've been doing, and I think I mentioned this in the last vlog entry, that a lot of what I've been doing is just making decisions about what information to include and where to include it. And I guess I thought, for when I was thinking about that at first, I thought, well, this is kind of unique to what I'm doing, but writers of all kinds have to make those decisions. You can always tell when a fiction writer has achieved a certain level of success. Sometimes their work gets sloppy because since they are successful writers, they have more power over decisions about what gets included and not, and sometimes that leads to bad books. And there are a number of authors throughout American history, I think, who have been guilty of that. Just most recently, I read Manhattan Beach by Jennifer Egan, and I love Jennifer Egan as a writer. But this book felt like one to me where she didn't make all the decisions she should have made. This is also, by the way, related to the old writing saw about killing your darlings. You have to be really careful about what you do and you don't include. So that's not just a nonfiction thing. It's obviously a fiction thing as well. Anyway, another good day of writing, and hopefully be back at it tomorrow. Okay, it's June the 20th, 2 hours almost of steady writing, and I'm still not finished with Chapter 3, even though the end is in sight. A good day of writing interrupted primarily just by the dogs barking. I may put a little footage of that in here just so you can see what I'm dealing with. Things now are coming together quickly, and I feel really good about the direction this kind of end of the chapter is taking. Once again, when I get down to the more original information, which I know is new research material, I always feel better about what I'm doing and the quality of what I'm doing. One thing that struck me today in my writing is just exactly how brutal the war in the Pacific was between the American soldiers and the Japanese. It was a fight in which neither side gave any quarter, and both sides undoubtedly committed war crimes. We know the Japanese did, but American soldiers became really hardened towards the Japanese incredibly quickly, and it was just a brutal, ugly war. That was kind of a challenge in writing about that, particularly since one of my sources of information was my great uncle, and to know that he was subjected to and participated in that is kind of rough. Zelda and I. Hush, babies. It's just a lady pushing a stroller. Hush, they're gone. Okay, it's December 21st. I got off to a late start. Probably only put in about an hour and 40 minutes a day. Good day. I finished the handwriting of Chapter 3 and then started typing Chapter 3 and editing as I go. That proved to be a much slower process. Fortunately, my dogs, Zelda and Ike, were quiet and sleepy all day and caused me absolutely no problems while I was writing. Again, some difficult stuff to talk about or to write about today, and going back over the words of my uncle and his attitude towards the Japanese soldiers which he encountered, and his just kind of determination that U.S. treatment of Japanese soldiers was what had to happen is difficult to read. I'm not arguing with him. I certainly wasn't there. But it is a hard thing to read that what we would normally consider war crimes were just the daily operation of American forces fighting in different places across the Pacific. Not that the Japanese weren't doing the same or worse, but it is still a difficult thing to read. But anyway, a good day and an important day. Ike. Zelda. Okay, it's June the 22nd. It's actually June the 23rd now. It's after midnight. This is my least productive writing day. A lot of things went on today during the day, so I wasn't able to really sit down and even think about doing any work till about 11:20 at night. I typed for about an hour, came to the conclusion that I had to make some decisions about rearranging things, and the information I actually was containing in this chapter and so I ran out of steam after about 45 or 50 minutes of typing. Not my ideal day, but I did at least sit down and get some work done. Hopefully I'll be able to do the same tomorrow. Okay, today's June 23rd. It's the last day of my third week of my summer writing project, and I'm feeling pretty good. I was able to get to work today around noon. It's about 1 o'clock now. Worked for about an hour and 40 minutes on typing. Got through a couple of sections in chapter 3 and started on the second to last section of that chapter. And I'm feeling pretty good. Like I pointed out, I kind of edit my handwritten draft as I type, so that's kind of slow going. The 12 handwritten pages I've typed so far have turned into 10 typed pages of text, with 15 more handwritten pages from chapter 3 to go, which should put chapter 3 somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 22 pages of typed text. Looked back over my stuff, and so far I've typed 40 pages of the first draft of the book I'm working on, which I feel really good about. And definitely doing these writing vlogs has helped keep me on pace, and provided, for whatever reason, some kind of extra psychological impetus to keep going. So I'm gonna keep going next week and see how it goes.